Tonight, I do believe the chief turned on the air. It's a little warm in here right now, but the air should be kicking on, so bear with us. Obviously, I put out some pagers in front of you. They're all serialized. We're gonna issue them based on their serial numbers, and we're probably only gonna be giving out a handful of them tonight for some testing purposes, so we can work out all of the issues. But there's some big changes that will come from this when we switch over to the 800 paging. So. They're all programmed. We may need to make some minor adjustments if we find some issues with them with the testing. The plan with Central Dispatch is that we are going to start testing tomorrow with dual paging, and so that means VHF and 800 with the goal of getting additional pagers in July, so that way we can fully switch over. So hopefully over the next couple weeks we can work out any little issues that arise, and we get approval to purchase those additional pagers, and then we'll get them fully distributed out to everybody. So Kurt is here from Digicom, Kurt Beckner, or Fucker.
Yeah. That's what that is.
He's actually with Digicom, the subject matter expert, if you will, on programming. He's been around to numerous counties throughout the state of Michigan, has done these switchovers in Ionia near us. What about?
Ionia, Tuscola, Alcona, Ogama, St. Clair, Lenawee, lots of places.
So he is here to kind of give us an overview of how this is going to change our operations, and then answer any questions that may come up. So, all right.
Patrick, I have a question real quick.
Yep.
How do I turn the sniffer off?
That's a good question, Joe.
Press and hold.
Where does the power button?
Can you kill these robots?
Oh, is it anyway? It doesn't say power.
Yeah, so there's these new sniffers that just came in today that are going around. If you guys want to get your hands on those today before you leave as well. And then I also brought up the K2 and the K55 cameras that came in last week. So some extra stuff for you guys to get your hands on at some point. Let's try this.
There we go.
How's that? Is that better?
That's way better. You guys see this?
Absolutely.
All right, is this started? Okay. All right, so I know to stay on this side. Well, my name again is Kurt. I work for Digicom. I also got 41 years in the fire service. I work as a ship captain medic for Oxford Fire. And tonight we're going to go over a lot of stuff. Got gas issues over there? Or,
Sorry.
little free apple splatter? What's going on? All right. So the pages that you carry now are VHF. They're very different from what you're going into. The county is adding more towers. I believe it was what, like October, you're going to be getting one about a mile away. So it will give you vast improvements for coverage. Downstairs, it's a little shaky. I haven't even tried upstairs yet. You said it's usually pretty good, or?
Yeah, in the offices up here, there's 1 to 3 bars.
Okay. So we're gonna go through this. We're gonna get pretty detailed. We're gonna have a lot of hands-on. We're gonna talk about the paging footprint that the state set up. Review the programming that we set up today, some of the functionalities, some interoperability, and so forth. So your pager, like I mentioned, that your VHF just sits and idles and waits for a transmission from the base station or repeater. It doesn't do anything else, it just waits. With 800 megahertz, it is a different beast. It looks for control channels. Your mobiles, your portables, your base stations, all look for control channels. And at that, if they don't see control channels, the pager will go out of range. Now, with your VHF, you don't know when you're out of range. When you travel down the road and you get too far from the transmitter, and it doesn't, hey, that's where my active 911 off, but my pager didn't, it's because you're too far from the transmitter, and you don't know that. With 800, you do know that. It will give you a short beep to let you know you're disconnected, and it will say on the front that you're out of range, okay? To make that better is to get more towers and to get back into an area where it does have coverage. Multi-select is the capability to dispatch and transmit on multiple talk groups. A paging footprint. You're going to show you here shortly what the paging footprint is. Right now you have a VHF tower and it just transmits in an omnidirectional way so far. Maybe 10, 12, 15 miles, depends on the height and the type of antenna. You can have the capabilities that have multiple zones, and you have 8 selectors. Some of you, if they have minute or 5s, you have 4 selectors. This one has 8. This is your coverage map. Now, if you are up here in Kent County, your pager will go off very clear, okay? And the reason is that we set up a paging footprint so that when dispatch transmits, it will hit every one of these towers and simulcast systems within the paging footprint. So, in Eaton County, they've got 5 towers. You could be all the way down here, and your pager will alert, and it will sound just as clear as if you're in a good connection up here, okay? Your next is Plainwell, and this is the approximate coverage map that they have on this particular tower. You have Nashville, Allegan, which multiple towers, so you could go all the way over to the water's edge, and you will know that you got a call. Your pager will alert you. You have Ionia. I couldn't get that other blue dot out of there, which is in the center. I couldn't get the other one out for Potters. And Portland. And then you have Kent County. So you could be in downtown Kent County, in Grand Rapids, and your pager gets alerted. You'll hear it crystal clear. Again, control channels, your pager has to connect to them. If you lose a signal, you get an alert, and when it comes back in, you get a different alert, and we'll kind of show you that tonight. When your pager connects to the control, it provides a different type of alerting. So we have a screen that will show blue for EMS and red for fire, because you guys have 2 alerting tones. There's a RISI level in there, and we'll show you the diagnostic screen to kind of have an idea of what you're connected to and what signal strength you have. So again, the state set up this massive paging footprint. So when dispatch hits the transmit button on, let's say, your EMS talk group, you will have all of these towers in all of these counties, including yours, will all transmit at the same time. Once your pager is affiliated to that particular tower based on topography or location, your pager will alert. You'll get the initial announcement. The paging talk group is always the highest in the priority of the list. So if you're 08 F911 and you're listening to that, and there's Hastings is talking, and the pager goes off, it will stop listening to your F911, it will alert the pager, it will give you the initial call, and then you'll go back into the scan based on the location you are on your pager. Let's see, I don't want to say some stuff. So, the pager does not drag talk groups. If you take a portable or mobile and you drive around through the state and you're on your OEF 911, it will bring that talk group onto that tower because it's a transmitter. On a pager, it does not move talk groups. It only receives stuff. So, if you're up in the north end of Ionia County and you are affiliated with Potter's Tower, and you get an alert, if your 08 F911 is not on that tower, you will not hear any more transmission, okay? If there's a radio, one radio is attached to that tower and it has your 08 F911, your pager will hear the rest of the conversation. Does that make sense? Got half and half, the other one's like, holy crap, what's he talking about? All right, being that you're around here, the 08 911 will be on most of the towers due to base stations, mobiles, portables traveling around. We'll affiliate with those towers, and the pager will see that talk group on there and be able to process the dispatch. But if you get further away, the probability is that you could miss something on 08 F911. So when the pager alerts, it's going to alert for 4 seconds. And what it does is when dispatch initially puts the call out, the pager starts to record internally. The pager will vibrate and alert, okay? And after the 4 seconds of alerting, it will then start to play the conversation forward. At that point, you have to, if you're not on a selector that has the 08 F911, you will have to change your selector to go find that talk group to hear the rest of the county transmission from the call. Does that make sense? So right now in VHF, when you get alerted on selective mode, and you get to two-tone your pager alerts, it takes your pager from selective call to monitor. And then you would hit the button and what would it do? It would reset it and go back to selective if you're on that particular call. 800 doesn't do that. You have to follow the transmission for the conversation. So for instance, on selector 1, you have your fire and your EMS talk group, and if it alerts, screen will either flash red or blue, and then it will give you the initial call. Thornapple, you got a medical, 123 Main Street, and it is a cardiac patient. Okay. Dispatch is no longer going to talk on that paging talk group. They're going to continue to talk on what? 08 F911. If you don't move your selector to one of those selectors that have 08 F911, you will no longer hear the conversation. Okay? So one way or the other, on VHF, you're going to have to touch the pager to reset it. On this, you'll have to change it to move it. Now, if you're on selector 8 and you want to monitor the county, you don't have to do anything. The 08 F911's there, the paging talk groups are there, the pager alerts, you don't have to do anything because the pager sees that 08 F911 on that particular selector. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. This is kind of what a screen looks like and is color coded. These are different paging talk groups. They will find your particular department. They key up and they make the announcement. So it's test time. Your pager gets alerted. What's going to happen to your pager? How long does it go out for?
4 seconds.
Okay, and then what happens? What happens to the initial voice when it starts out? What does it do? It starts to record it, and then after the 4 seconds, what do you hear? You hear the message from the star line. Okay, so if the pager is going to alert, it's recording in the background the dispatcher. It alerts for 4 seconds. Once the pager alerts, then that recorded message from dispatch will start to play. Okay? Once you go over to OE or 08 F911, will that be a delay? No. Why? Because it's monitoring, there's not going to alert, because 08 F911 does not alert, it's just an audio talk group. All right? All right. Go ahead and grab your pagers. Go ahead.
You said it changes the screen color based fire EMS. What if it's both?
You will only get one. Dispatch will only put out a fire, or they'll only put out
So
a
if it's a
medical.
cardiac arrest, CPR in progress, they're only going to tone EMS. They're not going to tone fire for
Oh,
issues
they
of puppies.
I don't know.
They typically. Too late to make sure cardiac arrest.
They say to the
That
pager.
is a dispatch, that's a dispatch protocol for cardiac arrest, those people, fire. and
Okay,
ambulance.
so they'll have to alert fire or EMS, and then they'll alert fire.
Something in
I
there.
see.
Okay, they can't do both at the same time. It's kind of like 2 tones. You can't send 2 tones at the same time. You do one set of tones, then you do another set of tones. All right, so everybody grab your pager. Okay. Don't turn it on. Yeah. So, is your name Darren? No. I gotta get it just like you in the fire station.
Oh, it's really close.
What is it?
It's Dave.
All right, I'll go with it. All right, so you see the antenna up here. This does come off. So check it. You know, don't use vice grips to secure it. It just needs to be hand tight. Okay, you have your replay button right here, just like on your monitors. You have your selector, your on-off, and again, don't over tighten the antenna. On the side, there's a little clip right here, and that's how you remove the belt clip. All you have to do is take this little screwdriver. All it needs is just a little pop to get out of that groove. Take your thumb at the bottom and slide off the belt clip if it breaks. You have your message box on the side, voice memo, and your charging ports on the side. Currently right now, there is a wall adapter and a cord that you will plug in a mini USB to charge the pager on the side of the pager, right down there at the bottom. On the front, you have a number of buttons, okay? So let's go ahead and turn your pager on. And put it to selector number 1. You got a pager?
Need another one now?
Yeah. How many many pages do we need?
I figured they would just share it with people next to them. I didn't think everybody needed.
All right. So on the front is kind of like a taskbar. You're going to reference that these colors will meet these particular buttons. All right, we're going to get into that later. So you have your zone change, which is called Z/C. You have your reverse button. So if you go into something and you want to back up, you just hit the reverse button. It's another quick way that you want to eliminate your screen. You can just hit the button, the screen will come back on. You have your function status, a lock button, your main menu, and you have a speaker. Down in the corner, you're going to see a very small hole. If you're looking at the pager on the bottom right, that is a drain port. So these pagers can go underwater for up to 30 minutes and no further than 3 feet. So if you're under a porta tank and you look at your pager for 40 minutes, then you might have to write a dear John letter to the chief. All right, so grab it, take it out, take a hairdryer to it. Don't take an air compressor at 600 PSI, just take a dryer, put it in front of a fan, but make sure that port is kind of clear so the water can drain out. So if you get soot or any kind of stuff on it, you can actually take it under a faucet and get it off so you're not having any carcinogens on it. So go ahead and turn the pager on. And make sure you're on selector 1. I believe that will say, as I get the pager here. Okay. So selector number 1 is going to say 1-PG-Fire-EMS, meaning that this selector you will get fire alert and you will get EMS alert. Now on the front, right here, it's called a toggle switch. I want you to scroll down and I want you to look at that and tell me what you see in there. On number 1, 2, and 3.
Master for D25 parking.
Total 3.
So you have 08PG, Thorn EMS, Thorn FD, and PG 911. The 08PG 911 is a county all call, kind of like what you had in your pagers. So if they need to put out a storm alert or whatever, they can just hit this all call and every pager that's on this in the county will go off immediately. Okay, so they don't have to stack the calls with like two-tone. All right, now let's go to selector number 2. Okay, it's going to say 2PG fire. So I hit the downward toggle on the front and tell me what's in there,
OAPG TFD,
which is fire,
OAPG 911.
which is county all call. Okay, let's go to selector 3. What's it say? So what is that? So let's scroll down, take a look. You got your paging talk groups in there, and then you have 08 Thorn. That is your proprietary local talk group. So if you guys are going to set up for some training and you have your pagers and you're using your 08 Thorn, then your pagers will be able to hear it. Okay? Now, the paging talk groups, again, are at the top of the list. So if someone's talking and you're talking ladder evolutions and all of a sudden your pager goes off, that means that something's come in and has override any conversation below that's a non-paging talk group. All right, let's go to selector 4. Okay, this is 08 South Fire. That is fire ground operations to the south of the county. Go ahead and hit the downward arrow, the downward toggle. And it gives you the talk groups that are that are in that particular selector. Okay? All right, let's hit selector number 5.
Should they be different than the previous?
They will be different.
They will be, they're not now.
Nope, because each selector is its own entity. So when you change the selector, the talk groups or paging talk groups are always going to be there. The only difference is 1 and 2. 1 has got fire and EMS, and 2 is just has fire. Okay? All right, so in number 5, you're going to notice that you have your paging talk groups, fire and EMS, along with a county all call, and you have your North Fire for fire ground operations. Let's go to selector number 6. Do you see a PG in that? That means you are not connected to the system. Okay, this is ATEX. Who knows what ATEX are? Nope. They're on every mobile and portable and base station and your pagers. ATEX, okay, is an abbreviation for 800 megahertz tactical. 91 is the channel, and D stands for direct. So, what does that mean for your portables? Well, if you get to a particular facility that you don't have coverage for, and you know about this problem, then you can go on your portables, you can go to ATEC 91D. This allows the radio to go prep to prep, and that's up to about a half a mile, radio to radio. So this is gonna scan 5 different conventional channels. It is not on the network. You will not hear dispatch. You will not get alerted on this, okay? It's strictly for something, it's a decision by the incident commander to have you go to this, and you have the capabilities of having that in there, okay? Let's go to number 7.
Point of clarification, kind of the TAC channels are interop channels, and as he was saying, they are on every portable mobile radio out there, so they do allow us to communicate with law enforcement, or they can transmit and communicate through those channels. So they,
Those are like the channels we do for like RTX.
yes, yep.
So they are mandated by the FCC that any 800 megahertz radio system has to have 800 8-tax and 7-tax. There's right now about 96 conventionals: law enforcement, mobility, fire, medical, admin. So if you have a large network, everybody kind of has their own conventionals, okay? We don't have them all in there, but we have the ones that are most common for your area. All right, so number 7, it already tells you that you have page. Does that mean you're connected to the state system?
Yes.
Yes. And 08 E911 is what?
Dispatch.
What kind of, which is doing what? Fire or EMS? Okay, so let's scroll down and take a look at it. So you got your paging talk groups. You also have fire and E in there, and you also have Nashville EMS in there. Okay? All right, let's go to number 8. This is really where you're probably going to be hanging out most of the time if you're going to be monitoring. So it's pretty clear. It's Selector 8, it's PG, it's 08F911. Okay, that's main dispatch. If you scroll down, you're going to notice that you have your 3 talk groups, your 2 and the county, and then you have your F911, and you also have your local. And you also have some of your neighbors. You have their paging talk group, but it won't alert. You're able to hear what's going on with them. All right. Does everyone kind of feel comfortable with that? So, test time. You're going to go home and you're going to go to sleep, and you're running fire and EMS. You don't want to listen to the rest of the county. What selector will you go on? 1. So let's go to 1. Okay, you get a call. What's going to happen? What's your pager going to do?
4 seconds.
4 seconds, it's going to beep. Okay. If it's fire, what color will the screen be?
Red.
If it's EMS?
Blue.
Okay, so that you know, where you roll over, I don't know what went off. Now you know, you can see visually what went off, and you can kind of correlate what type of call it is. If it's a county all call, it's going to be green. So you've got 3 colors to choose from to figure out where you need to be. All right. So the call goes out, the pager alerts for 4 seconds. You get the initial message. Have a rollover accident, a couple entrapments, 1 injected, and that's it. Initial call goes out. You don't hear any more. What do you got to do?
Spin to 8.
Go to where?
8.
8. Why?
Here in your radio traffic. Monitors portable.
Okay. So you're now able to listen to your 08 F911. Okay? All right, good. All right, on the front, let's go back and hit the backwards arrow, which is this right here. This puts you back to the main screen. You won't have much in there because we haven't alerted the pagers, but this is where you would hit the message box, or you could play it here. This is the quick way. This is to get into and get more details, and you can store you could probably store 500 messages in there, depending on how long the dispatch talks. And you can save them, you can delete them, you can do whatever you want them, and it has no effect on the battery life. Okay? If you got that call you really want to save, you can actually lock it out. Okay? All right, next one is we're going to hit the function status, which is the yellow. So we're going to go into that one, and when you hit that, okay, it's going to give you a bunch of options. The first one is you can change zones at this location. As you scroll down with your toggle, it's going to say Bluetooth. You can connect in by Bluetooth or connect in your car and have quadraphonic alerting if you need to. All right. You got an earphone that you can activate and manage your Bluetooth. All right. Monitor mode, you don't have to worry about the fixed alert. If you want to turn your pager up, right now it's based on volume level. So if you turn your volume down, the tones go down. When the pager alerts, it's 20% higher than whatever your pager volume at. If you have a hard time waking up or you work in a loud environment, you can set this so that regardless of the volume setting, it's always at max alert. You can actually go in there and there's 3 different levels of fixed alert. So if you got spousal issues and you want to turn this all the way up, this is a good time to do it because it'll get it right out of the room. Okay? All right. All right, next one down is auto keypad lock. You can do that if you don't want to worry about the pager hitting anything. The in and out of range. I suggest that you keep this on to let you know what kind of coverage. Now, you got some more towers coming here and it's a mile to the east. It will drastically change your communications levels. These pagers will be full bars. You'll be able to go into buildings with no problem and have that coverage. But that again is coming around in I believe in October. All right, universal alert. If you don't want this to vibrate, you can go into this and you can make it either tone and vibrate. You have your choice of doing what you want. Okay? All right, the log advisory you don't have to worry about. So hit the backwards arrow, the bottom left, and then go back to your main screen and then hit the lock button. This will lock the keypad. To unlock it, just read the taskbar. It's pretty simple. You're going to hit the diamond and the backwards arrow, and it will unlock your keypad. Okay? Lots of options. All right, next is we're going to hit the bottom right corner where it looks like, some people think it looks like a duck, but all right, you're going to hit that and you're going to go into the main menu. Message box this is the 3rd location you can get your messages. Top, the front on M-box or here. The next one's function status, which we already went into, and next one's function settings. Let's go into that. Again, another place to change your zone. Unread message alerts, you can address that if you want to be reminded. Your LCD brightness. Why is this LCD brightness a pretty good tool? Is that if you can keep this as low as you can, what does that help reduce? Battery life. Okay? There is a choice on there that you can go in and make it auto, and there is like a little, it looks at the ambient light and adjusts your screen. I would suggest going into that. Okay? But I left it open for you.
Going into auto?
And making it so it's auto iris. Okay? That just makes it so like your screen's gonna be a little darker now, but when you go outside, it's gonna be a little less. So it's not a consistent. Okay? The screen timeout, we have it set for 10 seconds. Okay? So anytime this comes online or it gets a message or you hear audio, your screen will come on. So you want to have that again as low as possible. Your date and time, you can change it how you feel fit. Your date format, 12 or 24 hours for hour format. You can use this as an alarm clock. You can set up 2 different alarms. Let me know what time I set that tonight for you. And then your talk group ID timeout, you don't need to worry about that. And your voice memo, you don't need to worry about. All right, let's go back to your main screen, which is your backwards arrow. Hit the bottom right corner and scroll all the way down to diagnostic screen. and then click in. You're gonna see what's called an RSSI, which is a radio signal strength indicator. That determines how well this is talking to the tower. If you scroll down with the toggle, it's gonna tell you that you are on Allegan County. I don't know if somebody's on something else. Everybody in Allegan? Kent? So here we have a room, and we got 3 different systems that are coming in here. That's the way radio waves work. Anybody else got anything else, or? Allegan, Kent, and what was the other one? Plainwell, okay? All right, so you can know the frequency, you can know the tower that you're on.
Is that just because Berry County's signal for us isn't great right now?
It's because you got a metal plate in that, I don't know. I have no idea why. It's just the way it is, I have no idea. It's radio waves, they come through you, bounce all over the place. We're in the same room and we got towers that are closer and further away. Okay? All right, any questions about that? Lots of options. So as stuff starts to, as you start traveling around with these, right now your towers in your county are standalone towers. If you go up to Kent County, they've got, I think, 12 towers up there. And if you're connected to one of them and one radio has your 08 F911 on it, then all the towers have that 08 F911 on it. It's called simulcast. Here in the National Tower is a standalone, Plainwell is a standalone, Ionia, Portland, and Potters are standalone. So having a simulcast system is much better because it just takes one radio to bring all these towers on and expand your communications to be able to listen. I believe you're getting how many towers? 3?
We'll have 2 brand new ones hopefully by next year, and then they've got to rebuild the Nashville site, so then they'll get 3, and then they're gonna try and simulcast the Plainwell Tower into those 3.
So you have 4.
It'll be a total of 4.
Yeah. So what'll have to happen is because each tower has its own control channels. When they merge them together, it just produces 2. So instead of 8, it produces 2, and the pages will have to get reprogrammed once you get the simulcast going, because they will get rid of all of those 8, and they will have just 2 for all of them, so that when they key up, all 4 of those towers key up at the same time. Okay, which will probably I'll be back here next year. All right. Let's see. All right. So this is the belt clip off. There is a cover that you can see underneath the belt clip. Bless you. This happens to be out. It's a square battery, chief. You should replace your batteries once a year. It's not my rule, it's an indication. They just recommend replacing them once a year so that the pager's working at the optimal level. So you can see here there's a little tab. You can't see it on your pager, but to try to get that out is a little tab to help you get that battery out. The concern is this is what happens sometimes. You put the cover on it, you don't see the tab, and what happens? It's more prone for water to get into it because it doesn't have a good seal. So make sure you cover that over, go ahead and wrench it down. Okay? That's short and sweet. Any other questions?
No questions for Kurt? I have a couple of little added things in here. So these pagers are going to be critical because we will not have our page groups in our mobiles and portables, right? So we have to get more, as I mentioned, and there's a reason why they're not going to be in the portables and mobiles is because of as he was mentioning, there's prioritization. So if we put like a page group into our mobiles and portables, we won't hear anything on 08 F911 or any of the other channels that we might be utilizing, because that page group will basically take over that radio. Correct?
Yeah, so typically they only put paging talk groups in your pagers. The problem with mobiles and portables is that they don't have an encoder in it to be able to understand how to alert the radio. So it's really just kind of pager driven. But you can have the talk groups in there, they just won't alert. So it's a talk group. It's just how it's programmed in the pager to make it sound this way or display this way. That's all it really is. So there are departments, they have approved for like the chiefs and so forth, if you wanna put the paging talk groups in your radio, you're actually paging talk groups as a secondary or third backup. You can key up and you can actually alert your department via portable radio. Now, the only downfall to that is that when you key up, you only alert the tower that you're affiliated with. Where with dispatch, it's programmed on the back end so that when they hit transmit, it covers your county and all the other counties. So when this tower comes close and most of your employees are off that tower and you key up and everyone's probably hovering on that tower, you could alert pagers. So if dispatch goes down, or there's a problem, or you're self-dispatching from here, that's a good thing to add to your ISO rating that you have the capabilities of alerting. Okay? Your backup dispatch is Allegan County. So if they have to evacuate or there's a problem, immediately all of that stuff is already sitting in Allegan County for, they can talk to you, they can alert your pagers, they can do everything from Allegan County. So that would be something that you would have to get with your radio vendor. They can add those in there, and typically they put those paging talk groups way down the beaten trail, so there's no chance that you just accidentally keyed up. Like you had to change multiple zones and go all the way down the bottom to go to it. That's where they usually set.
There will be a noticeable delay with VHF and 800. As he mentioned, there's a 4-second delay. You'll start hearing dispatch information almost immediately on VHF, but there's that delay, and then the 800. And it gets kind of annoying if you're carrying both pagers, because one's gonna be talking and then all of a sudden the other one's gonna start talking, okay? So just be aware for if you're dual carrying during the testing period. We did put in mutual aid departments. Yankee Springs and Hastings are currently in that monitoring page group. There's some discussion about whether or not we want to add some additional that we may do that later down the road.
That's their paging talk groups. It won't alert your pager, but you're gonna hear the initial call out for them because dispatch is not multi-selecting and transmitting across your F911 at the same
So
time.
right now, basically, if you're listening to 08F, you just hear Yankee Springs C2 acknowledges page, right? And well, what are they acknowledging? What they get dispatched to? That channel 8 will actually have their dispatch info come through with that page group, so we'll be able to hear that now moving forward. Currently, we did not get charge bases for these. As he mentioned, there are charge cords and plugins. They take a micro USB. Those are an additional $100. These things cost almost $600. So there's a pretty substantial expense that goes into these. So that is something we'll budget for and purchase as we go, most likely, if people feel that they need those. The station alerting, it wasn't as simple as a plug and play as we had hoped. We're gonna need to do some troubleshooting. So currently it's gonna be still paging out on VHF until we can figure out how to get the amplifying base for the G5 to trip our PA system. So there's a very different, it's a dual banded G5 like the one I carry that will have as our station paging. And the reason for that is backwards compatibility. And I also foresaw that we might have some issues with the transition period. So I wanted to make sure that we still had both VHF capabilities if we needed to revert back to it, and then being able to move forward with 800. So having that, latitude to go both ways if we need to. ISO rating, as he mentioned, having a backup plan if 800 goes down, we have a redundancy in being able to page out over that or VHF, and our station mobile radio also can page out on VHF. So we do have some of that already built in. And one last little nuance about these things, for those of you that carry G1s, these clips broke a lot. And one of the I haven't had any issues with this one breaking, they're a little bit more beefier, but one of the reasons why these things break so easy is this little pin wiggles its way out. So keep an eye on this pin and just pop it back in there with a pen tip or something like that, because when they start wiggling out and they get out of their position, that's when they start cracking and that's when they start breaking. So just keep an eye on them. Those aren't cheap. How much they charge for those clips?
They're like $11 or something.
Okay. All right, well, I thought they were a little bit more.
Oh, I'm sorry.
In any case,
$400, that's what
I thought they were a little bit more than that,
Yeah.
but,
Pretty close
just keep
to
an
that.
eye on those, and then the charge ports, be careful with those as well. They do, you know, if you're not being, you know, thoughtful as you're plugging that in, you are gonna wear that port out over time, so.
So try to keep the cover on that because it picks up road grime and it's just, you're taking your mini USB and you put it in there and it just causes more stress with the connection in there. So,
You took a phone call today for somebody that was trying to charge off from this and it wasn't working?
yeah, but his pages are 8 years old.
So, 8 years. Question?
So no more tones. After 800, you will no longer hear tones. That story is gone. When you convert over, there's no more hearing an A tone and a B tone. Your pager is just gonna beep.
And there's only gonna be one set, or one, not set, it's gonna be one tone, period. There's not gonna be a second tone, so there's gonna be one tone that's gonna have all of the information, and then you need to switch over to either your portable or your channel 8. You're not gonna get a, you know, darn amplifier going to service for a structure fire. And then a second set of tone that's, you know, got additional information. It's literally gonna be one tone and that's it.
Now, do they dual tone you?
They're not, they are stopping, they're ending that and only going to a single tone.
Okay. So remember, if anything that says PG on it, your pager will alert. Okay, that means you're connected to the state system. You can receive pages via a paging talk group. So a talk paging talk group is no different than your 08 F911, your E911, your 08 Thorn. It's just a talk group. It's how the pager's programmed to receive that and alert it, and it's also set up for the paging footprint so that all these counties, when they key up on your 08 F911, the only towers that it goes to is the affiliation of portable or mobiles or base stations. It doesn't like transmit to all these. If there's no radio on 08 F911 in Kent County, none of the towers will light up. It's not automatic. But with paging talk groups, it's forced to go to those particular places. It's like a massive simulcast, just all collected together. And based on where you're traveling and you're connected to, your pager will alert if you're connected to the system. Now, can you say, can I be up in Traverse City? Nope, you can only go within that paging area. Now, if you go north of Kent County, 10 miles, and you're still connected to the Kent County simulcast, and your pager will go off, okay? When you look at your diagnostic screen, you'll see a 90 is the is the number that you can get anywhere from neg 50 to neg 90. If it's neg 72 internally, it shows neg 90. If it's 56, it shows neg 90. When it starts getting worse, it's gonna start rising that number. And when you start getting into the neg 115 area, you're gonna start hearing a little digital. And after about neg 120, 125, you're gonna get out of range. Okay? So when you have your VHF, you walk into Frank's hardware store, you have no idea if you're gonna hear the VHF transmitter or not. Because the pager's paused, waiting for a signal to come to it. With this pager, it's constantly communicating. So if you go in there and you get an out of range, what's that something to start thinking about for fire tactics? If your pager doesn't work, what else won't work? Portables. So if you have a large facility near and you walk in and right at the door, you have coverage issues. Now, I think you get this tower mouth and now you're gonna have phenomenal coverage. But for now, that makes you start realizing like, wow, I was here earlier today to pick up groceries and now it's on fire. So now I gotta start thinking about how to communicate. If you go with 800 and it doesn't work with your pagers, your portables won't work, what's the backup plan? ATEX, okay? So that might be something you wanna look at your portables and find out where that stuff's at. It may be in another zone, it may be in your home zone, I don't know. But that's radio to radio, and it will work phenomenal. I could bring my radio to this party, and I just go to ATEC 91D, and you're there, and we're talking. It's any 800 radio in the United States. Okay?
But it's radio, so dispatch doesn't hear it.
Radio to radio.
Isn't that correct?
So you can transmit up to a half a mile. If your incident's larger than a half a mile, you've got a comms team coming to probably support you. But it's a great tool, like if you gotta go below grade, it'll work great. Okay?
That was basically treated me like a lot of copy.
It's radio, it's conventional. It's analog, conventional, radio, and the D stands for direct. So you may get in that section, it'll say ATEC 91, ATEC 91D. 91 means it's duplex, means there's a repeater that needs to be in there to facilitate two different radios. You transmit on one, you receive on another frequency. When it says D, it's radio to radio. There's nothing in the middle, there's no dispatch, there's nothing to support it. So it works really well.
So this scenario, if there's 12 of us on there, and 4 of us try to talk at the same time, does it just squash all that? Is it the first one?
It doesn't have one talks all listen. So it's like a VHF radio, okay? But it gives you a quick way of having a redundancy system by having a simplex system in there. If you go to 700 in the future, that's what they're kind of pushing, it's all digital now. So you'll get further into a building, you'll get more distance, and it's encrypted.
Are we gonna have an issue like we did when we were running on a solely VHF where if your pager was on next to a radio, it's gonna bonk off of each other? If you're not having feedback, does that work? Yeah.
Where one's getting reception and the other isn't?
It's possible.
No, I think she's keying out that it's.
Yeah, so like you're, yeah, like.
Oh,
the
you mean
echo or like the-
desensitizing?
I don't know.
Yeah.
So you get feedback loop?
So what happens is when you key up on your portable and you hit a tower and that pager is listening to that or attached to that tower, there's a 45 kilohertz separation between the two. So when you transmit, it comes on one frequency from your radio and it comes back on another. But when you get around something that's trying to receive something and you're killing it with 3 watts, it could desensitize it based on the distance from the tower, and that pager won't hear it because you're cramming it with a strong signal right next to it. You probably will see a delay because when you key up, you will find with portables and pagers, they might be slightly off a little bit, okay? Just a little bit. Now, when you get the initial call, and you're, let's say, coming back from, your tree in an Amazon vehicle, okay? Was there any packages damaged? 'Cause I'm expecting a package.
I'm expecting it.
So, when you key up, or I'm sorry, when dispatch goes and starts talking, your mobile is not alerting. It's immediate, 08 F911, it's right off the radio. But when you alert, your pager is going to be alerting, and it's going to be coming across your paging talk group, and it will alert your pager. There is going to be no multi-select to have a 4-second difference between 08 F911 and your paging talk group. You're just going to get alerted, and if you're still on 08 F911 here and you key up, then you're going to get feedback based on how loud your pager's at. So if it's loud and you key up, you're going to hear it and they think there's 2 of you in there. It's the same thing with VHF. Okay, so the best thing to do is you get the alert, get the information, turn it down, key up, focus on your portable or your mobile radio.
And was it a 20-second timeout on the,
So the pager will let you know if you like you walk in Frank's Hardware again and it drops the signal right at the door. It takes the pager about 20 seconds to let you know that you are out of range. Okay? Once you come back out, it's pretty quick. It'll reaffiliate pretty quick, okay? It takes, it's set for, 10 seconds to come back on once it sees it, but, that's kind of a threshold. If it sees it before that, it'll come back on quicker. So it's not like if I set it at 2 seconds and you just going down the road and it had a little blip, your pager is constantly going out of range, okay? Your mobiles and portables are also programmed that way, okay? What kind of radios guys you running with Kenwood?
Yeah.
Yeah. Your Kenwoods, based on the model, are pretty close to receivability from a pager to a portable radio. Obviously, the truck radio is gonna be way different, but, so it's pretty close.
So, just a clarification of the question here. You get the single page on your channel 1 or your channel 2, right? It's going to have its dispatch information, it's gonna come through, and as soon as that's finished, that's when you need to switch to channel 8, like he had you guys do that earlier.
Yep.
So, listen to the page info. When they're done, then you make that switch over to 8. And
I can hear people calling the service.
then you'll be able to hear, yep, your traffic on 08F. Because we're going from 1 to 8, do we lose connectivity with the state system if you,
We used to, but it's
yeah,
pretty
so
slow.
we're staying, that whole bank is on 800 unless you for some reason stop on TAC.
Yeah, then it would slow down a little bit, but you switch it over, it'll connect pretty quick.
It'll stay connected pretty quick.
Yeah.
Are the tones gonna be different at all?
There's no tones.
That's just feature.
Just the page?
The beat.
You just get beeps.
Yeah, you're not gonna hear that doo-doo anymore.
Catch
A little higher pitch.
I'm gonna record that.
That's
for
that's
station.
pretty, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Half step up. It's very close to ours, but not quite the same. Hey, how's it going?
I had a department, they actually had to make a WAV file, and the chief said, get up, you have a call. That was the actual alert.
So yeah, the alert tones that are in these new pagers are also different from what you're probably used to, depending on what pager you have. I think there's like 3 to 4 different variants floating around between G1s and Motorola 5s, 6s, and maybe even, I don't even know if there are any 4s floating around still. So we've got like 4 different variant pagers, and yeah, your tones are gonna sound a little bit different.
It's still the standard Motorola beeps.
Beeps.
It just has a little quicker, a little faster, a little
Yeah,
different
tone
pitch.
beeps.
Yeah.
So our fire and EMS gonna be the same one?
Yes.
It's just a talk group. It's just a talk group's a talk group.
It's just alerting that it's.
So, when you have your EMS talk group and they key up and the pager's constantly looking for that and it sees it and it brings it in and says, what am I supposed to do? It's been programmed to flash blue. It's supposed to beep this way. It's gonna last for 4 seconds. It's gonna have voice buffering in it. And when it stops beeping, I'm gonna take the recorded message from the first 4 seconds and I'm gonna start playing it. Okay? If you go over to 08 and you're listening to, you're just driving along and you get alerted, the page will alert for 4 seconds. It'll store that 4 seconds in voice. Once it stops alerting, it starts playing. You don't have to change anything when you're on 08 because they're no longer gonna transmit on the paging talk group. They're gonna transmit on what? 08. And that is immediate. There's no delay. It's right off the transmission, right off the dispatcher's mic. Okay?
Something that I didn't think about when we programmed these today, and we can certainly make those adjustments as needed. I do not like the beeps, so my pager is all vibrate. And so if there are people that prefer to not have that, I think he said that
You can go in and do it yourself.
you can go in and manually change that yourself. I did, so the page group, channel 1, channel 2 are set right now for those alert beeps.
They're all tones.
Yeah.
So you can go in there and you can change them.
Now, if there's, if we wanna have a channel in there that is vibrate only or tone only, we can talk about that, but, I didn't program it that way currently.
You said we could do all that ourselves per our own pagers.
across the
I
board?
don't think so. They got passwords on them, so you can't do anything other than
You
turn
can
them on.
change it to.
You might be able to change the vibrate.
You can do that, but as far as like adding like detailed programming, you'd
Okay.
have to have the software
Oh,
and
per
password.
channel.
Yeah, but you can, if it's in the function settings, or the, you can go in there and make those changes. If it displays, you can make options. Okay?
More questions? This is the time, guys, to ask if you got any. Go for it, Mike.
You're looking right at me.
I am, Mike.
What's the slotted time for, like, we have the trial for VHF 800, when's the slotted to, like, after the tower's in, right?
No, the hopeful, the plan is hopefully before the end of July.
We just have to see how well it works.
We gotta.
Yeah, so let's say we're making a grocery run and we boop all the time inside of Harding's, somebody's gonna have to stay outside, wait for the tone, somebody shop, you know, like, we just gotta be careful where
We
we
each
are.
have VHF and that.
Well, that's what I'm saying, when's VHF go away?
I'm hoping that this trial, we're not gonna have dead spots. I don't really wanna put something in service, that someone has to stand outside.
Yes, that's.
So if that's the case, we'll just scuttle it till the towers are.
And then, is this the same, system that Hastings has currently?
Yep.
So,
Hastings, Yankee Springs, has been on it for.
what's your experience with a single tone?
8 to 10 years.
Yeah, what's your experience with like just a single tone? I fear sleeping through it, or.
It's just, it's not a tone, it's just a beeping.
It's just alerting.
It's
But
just alerting.
single information. You're only getting the
Yeah.
single point of information.
Yeah. That's where that
typically-
fixed alert comes in.
For what?
What do you
Fixed
mean?
alert, you can make it max. So if you happen to have your volume all the way down,
Mhm.
cause you were like, I'm just kinda monitoring, but I don't want it to be blasting me, you put it on fixed alert, it doesn't matter what your volume setting is, it is gonna be full blast plus 20%. Now, on my department, that's how I run.
Yeah.
So if my volume happens to go down low, my alert lets me know that I got a call. But the volume is down and I know I've got a call coming in.
If you got it on fixed alert, and like, let's say you're like running medical in someone's house, can you turn it down real quick, so it's not incredibly obnoxious?
Yeah,
It's going to stay that.
You
low.
can,
Okay, yeah.
that's how you do it.
Hand over speaker.
Where's your muffle?
Okay, yeah.
So, there's 3 settings in there, like low, medium, and high. I got mine at medium.
Okay,
Cause I kept getting, really?
yeah.
Cause it was too high.
Obnoxious.
So now I went to medium and it seems to, make
Okay.
everybody happy.
Cool.
It's definitely a learning curve. It's gonna take some getting used to.
Yeah. But the quality of sound, the coverage area, and you're getting new towers and they're moving forward, and this is a home run for you guys. So, you're testing out, you're doing the right thing, it's figuring out where things are a problem. But if you're putting a tower in a mile to the east of you, I'm telling you, you're gonna have full coverage in every building. You're gonna have great coverage. All right?
Brandon? Good?
I think so. I will let you know if I have an issue. Maybe like, we're gonna have pretty good three-port coverage, cause there's definitely some 800 dead spots now, three-port.
When the 2 new towers.
We can do new towers, won't be a problem.
And we've got plenty of VHF dead spots too.
Right, no, right.
Yeah, so the topography is always gonna be a little bit of a challenge in Berry County, and especially, out in Yankee Springs, and, Irving Township is definitely a problem.
Just need to flatten it out.
How tall is the tower supposed to be? How tall is the tower?
I don't remember offhand. I don't recall.
If it's 400 feet, you can get a solid 20 miles coverage off that tower. I mean, you're already seeing, you're pulling in Allegan and Plainwell, I mean, that's a ways away. So, you put one a mile away, it's gonna benefit police driving through here, EMS, your fire, it benefits everybody who's on the state system. So if you have a large event, that needs a lot of people in here, then you have a good tower for people able to connect of all different levels. FBI, DTW, you know, everything.
Katie, John, Harris? Jared? Okay, from the start.
I thought it would have come from Patrick.
Figured it out?
Don't hold it on again. First time.
I'm gonna keep going around.
First half hour, yeah, we'll get recording for it.
Okay. So, you know how like if we have too many 800 radios on a scene, they start walking off each other?
That was a good question, Kara. She actually prompted that, I was gonna mention that.
Okay.
So, yeah, so there's only so many channel grants, and so if you've got radios in close proximity, somebody's gonna receive and somebody is not. And so, that happens with law enforcement all the time. And really, the only way to combat that is honestly turning a radio or two off. Do you have that experience with your network at all, or is that gonna kind of go away once we have another tower?
Each tower has so many channels on it.
Right.
When you're scanning, you're just listening, it doesn't, I mean, you can put a lot of radios on it, different talk groups. It's the actual transmission that loads the tower down. So for instance, if you're on North Fire and you have 1,000 firefighters with 1,000 radios, you're only using one channel. That's all it is. It's just one person talks, everybody listens. But if you have South Fire, you have special events, you have the police, EMS is coming in, this is when things start to get a little dicey because depending on how many channels that tower or simulcast system has. So, our system right now is, I got 31 towers in our county, and we can have 29 transmissions at the same time. So, but it depends on population, depends on radios, depends on, there's a lot of mathematics to make it so that, but if they build a simulcast system, you will get more capabilities because you're using more channels, because if somebody in the south keys up, it's also using the towers on the other. So they have to expand that instead of one tower just kind of being its own island, another tower being its own island. But when you merge them all together, you have to get more channels because when one keys up, it keys up all the three towers. So they have to make that, they're gonna be engineering that, they'll have plenty of space.
Yeah, I believe that Stephanie said they were doing a study right now on the Plainwell Tower to determine how many channels are being occupied, because Kalamazoo uses that and Allegan uses that. So before they can bring it onto the simulcast system, they need to know whether or not it's gonna be able to be capable of handling of the additional channel grants.
Yeah. So our county, we have 1.2 million people. Our fire departments, 41 departments run about 300,000 calls a year. And so we had to support our neighboring counties, Wayne, Macomb, Lapeer, Washtenaw, Genesee County, Livingston. We had to pay to put more channels in their system because if our radios affiliate onto their simulcast, it's gonna bog them down. So it probably won't be as severe here, but they look into that kind of stuff so that, you know, if someone affiliates to that Plainwell Tower, which is a simulcast, and the next county over is very busy, that means all of your stuff's busy. So all that's part of the engineering to figure that out. So, I don't have anything else.
Thank you very much.
Small question on that function, what you just heard.
You lost your chance, I started with you.
No, on the fixed.
I started the
on
remote of my
fixed
car.
alert, on the fixed alert as far as the volume.
Yep,
And then what you just heard, is that the same tone?
no, that's just the level of volume level
That's
that
just
you're
the
gonna hear.
level talk, okay.
Yeah.
So in that fixed alert of what he was talking about, I didn't mean tone, I meant alert. That's not the same tone, it's just
No,
that, that's just testing your
That's
volume to
just
set what
testing
you
your
want.
audio to determine kind of the different levels of where low, medium, and high is at.
And you said that's gonna, if you turn that on and you set your volume, no matter where your dial is,
the
That's gonna
level.
be your tone for your page.
Just for the tone.
For the
just
alert.
for alerting.
Alert.
But then it will revert back to the volume.
Of what your
for
dial
the
is
audio
set at.
portion of it. Yep.
So just to put that into perspective for everybody on that volume side, or the volume amount, this is level 5. Volume wise, so if your pager's all the way down and you get toned out, like it's gonna scream at you.
For 4 seconds.
For 4 seconds, like that volume, to wake you up.
Thank you, Steven.
Yeah,
It'll actually be
that's
a-
what I accidentally hit, I didn't know it was gonna scream at me. Any,
So sometimes the spouse needs to be involved with that decision.
yeah. I turned it off, okay.
But if you work in a loud environment and you got the volume down because you don't really wanna hear the audio all the time,
Right,
you can set that like, oh, I got a call.
right.
Turn volume.
Plus 20. It's always plus 20.
Yeah, so whatever you just heard, it's
If
plus
I'm
20.
off, then I have my dial down, it's plus 20, so it's like 20%.
If you're on vibrate, it won't alert at all. I mean, you won't hear a sound, you'll just hear the pager
Okay.
shake, and then you'll hear the voice.
Gotcha.
Can you do vibrate and sound, or?
Oh my God, you can do both.
Yes, it's in there, it's in there.
Weird.
Don't,
After class, okay, we'll show you.
don't set it to silent, because the chief may send you we haven't seen you in a long time, where have you been? Because it won't alert at all, if it's in silent. No vibrate, no, nothing, it won't alert you at all. You'll just hear audio.
Okay, I need these pagers boxed up. We have a handful of people that we're going to give them out to today for testing purposes before we fully distribute. The testing is going to start with both VHF and 800 tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. We will have a station pager for those that are on shift here. We'll have one to carry around and